Just going to live stream some views of the sun. Just going to wait for Stuart to show up with his view from the telescope. All right.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, I'm just going to push this live, Stuart.
Okay, cool.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
All right.
No warning, but you can see.
It's a little windy.
It is a little windy, yeah.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Yeah, so there's like some lighter spots there, and I think those are some of the granules that you see on the surface of the sun. Are you recording any video of this?
Yeah. I just while I was waiting, I did a picture, so I'll be able to stack it and post it.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great filter. I mean, your setup is really, really good. I'm
Yep.
always really impressed by the view from your telescope, Stuart.
Well, this filter is actually, and for people who want it, it's actually really inexpensive. It's just it's homemade, and I just got a piece of Bader filter and cut a piece of wood and stuck it in between two pieces of wood, and it just plopped on the front of my telescope. The whole thing cost about $15-20. It was not expensive.
Yeah, yeah. And then what's your telescope again?
This is a 140 millimeter f7 refractor.
Right.
By Telescope Engineering Company.
Right. And what's the mount on it?
The mount is Skywatcher EQ6,
Right.
which is the same mount as the Orion Atlas mount. They're exactly the same.
What would a telescope like that kind of run you if you wanted to sort of match your setup?
Yeah, the APA 140 last I checked was about 5,000, and the mount was I think about 1,700 or something like that.
Right.
I bought my stuff used off of Astromart, so I kind of got the whole thing for about 5,000. But yeah, the guy who makes this also makes a 160 model, which is obviously more expensive. But I'm real happy with the 140. And the mount itself is barely big enough for this scope. I'd have a much better setup if I could have a heavier mount, but I don't.
So, I don't know. Let me see if I'll send a tweet out and see if anyone cares.
Yeah.
Because this is completely random and spontaneous. So
Right.
A lot of the times people have no idea.
Yeah.
That we're even doing this. So I will mention this on the Twitters because unfortunately that's the best way to tell people that things are happening over on Google Classes with Twitter.
And the camera I'm using is also a relatively inexpensive webcam. Excuse me. It's a imaging source color astronomical webcam. They retail for about $350.
Yeah, every piece of it is really phenomenal. I really like it. It's a great view. It's a rock solid mount, and the views into the camera are really good. Like you have got the perfect setup for this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
It's awesome.
It's just fun.
All right, I'm just gonna.
I hope to go to the astronomy meetup in Mountain View on Saturday and meet Pamela.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I'm going to see how I feel. If I hopefully in 2 days I'll not be hacking up a lung. So.
Oh, you're homesick today, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So what we're looking at here, if anyone is interested, is the sun.
Right. And somebody can look up and see which sunspot this is. If I do it, I'm going to screw up my web screen.
Yeah. And so it's So there's a. And do you want to try and see if we can find some more sunspots? We had another one before, but that's a really nice one, and you can see that over on the right-hand side, just on the limb of the sun, there's like some lighter spot there. I don't know if you can see that in your view. It's over on the right-hand side. There's like some lighter stuff. I'm gonna see
Oh
if
yeah.
I can summon a solar astronomer.
This is the first time I've used this camera for this. The last time I tried this, I was using my Canon DSLR, and the chip is so much bigger that I can see the whole sun in the frame. That this chip size is so much smaller that I only get a partial view.
Anything in the sort of middle of the sun?
Yeah, let's see. No. Oh, what's that?
Tiny one, maybe.
Yeah. You can probably see it better than I can because I'm shading myself with a cloth because I'm looking at a computer screen in the bright sunlight here.
Right.
Let's go back to the good one here.
Now, the thing that's really interesting, I mean, you can barely see them. Now, obviously, the color is a little off.
Right.
We're not seeing the yellow. It's everything's just shifted to white, which is actually sort of a truer version of what the color of the sun is. The sun's atmosphere actually modifies the photons that we see coming from the sun and pushes it a little to the direction of yellow. And so a lot of the case when you produce those images of the sun, you'll sort of mess with it in Photoshop a bit to get that yellow color back.
Yeah, that's exactly what people do.
Yeah. And then the other thing, but I've never seen this visually, is I can really see some of those granules on the sun. And the granules are these spots on the sun. So the sun has sort of the inner layer, the very core is where the fusion is happening, and outside that is this radiative layer where photons bounce around inside the sun, moving and getting absorbed and emitted and absorbed and emitted, and then they reach this outer layer, the convective layer. And the convective layer, it's kind of like a lava lamp, and you've got these blobs of solar material, and they start sort of deep down in the sun, and they get heated up like a lava lamp, and they rise up to the surface, and then bloop, and release their heat out into space, and then cool down and drop back down and pick up more heat. And so, the granules on the sun are sort of take a certain amount of high power and sensitivity and nice focus, and so I can just barely make them out. But I'll bet you when you finally do your final processed image of this, we're going to see some really neat, that sort of granulated sort of texture on the face of the sun.
Well, there's a guy in my club who's a solar expert, and he has excuse me, he has a couple of Lunt solar scopes, and he just has some absolutely sensational pictures of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking what is really a night telescope, more of a planetary observing telescope, and you're pushing it to view the sun, which is not its favorite place to be.
Right. It's just plopping a filter on top of it, so I don't.
Right. Now you've got your filter on just right in front of the actual main lens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right where the lens cap would go, the filter is going.
Right. And it just shuts down the light down to what, 0.1% or something like that?
Something like that. I don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah. So it just reduces the amount of light that's coming in to an absolute trickle, and then views. Now, what's really interesting, so the sunspot, right? These are where the magnetic field lines of the sun are, you've probably seen these views where the sun has these magnetic field lines, and this, with these sunspots, these are the spots where these field lines are poking out of the surface of the sun, and in many cases they work in pairs. So you'll have two of these sunspots where the field lines are traveling through from one to the other, and you'll get these situations where the magnetic field of the sun, these field lines will twist up and twist up and twist up and get all twisted up, and then they sort of burst, or and then reconfigure themselves. And in a lot of cases, that's how we get these solar flares and these coronal mass ejections. Is when these magnetic field lines are reconfiguring themselves. They release a tremendous amount of energy and particles that that blast out into space. And although they look black, they look like they're cold. They're really only a little bit cooler than the actual surface of the sun, which is like 5,300 Kelvin. So they're only darker or cooler in comparison to the rest of the sun, but they're still super hot.
And do you know why they form they're black? I mean, is it cooler? They're cool. Their temperature is cooler, but why does it look blacker than the rest of it?
Well, it's just the cooler temperature. That's all.
So it's just the cooler temperature.
Yeah. And then there's two parts to the sunspot. You can actually see the two parts of the sunspot. There's the umbra and the penumbra, I think it is. Let me just let me get some data. I wasn't sort of prepping this. Right. So the temperature. Right. So the temperature of the sun is about 5,700 Kelvin, and the temperature of the sunspots is between 3,000 and 4,500 Kelvin.
I see.
So it's just it's just that they are just a different temperature, and so they just release a different sort of color of light at that point. And so we've actually got a couple of comments. I can see Jason Major is proposing that is sunspot number 1422. So it's over on the right hand side.
Yeah, but that's just the way my camera's.
That's right. That's the way your telescope and cameras.
Even if I flip the camera around, it'll be on the left side.
It'll be on the left-hand side. Yeah, exactly. So there was another one. So Jason, I don't know if you've got you've got it in front of you. Let's go to that other one, because there's another one on the other side, on the other limb. So we're seeing sort of two of them. This one almost looks like a double. You can kind of see there's the main sunspot and then a smaller one. And this, you can see sunspots for yourself if you're interested. Now, whatever you do, right? We always say, do not look at the sun with your eyeballs. That obviously, if you look at the sun with your eyes, you can permanently injure your eyesight, and especially if you use any kind of magnification. If you use a telescope or binoculars, you can blow your vision in a heartbeat. So what you can do. There it is. Yeah. So what you can do is a couple of things you can do. One is you can create what's called a sort of a pinhole or a projection. So you can take a piece of paper and you can knock a little hole in it, and then you can let the light come from the sun through that pinhole and then project out onto something else. And you can sometimes see the sunspots on that projection. But the other way that I kind of like to do it as well is you can take a pair of binoculars. I don't have a pair of binoculars handy. So you can take the binoculars, and let's say that the sun is shining down. Now, don't look through the binoculars, but you can take the binoculars and you can aim the sort of the main end of the binoculars towards the sun, and then what you'll get is the light of the sun is going to focus through and come onto the ground, and again, you can project it onto a piece of paper, and then you can sort of make it big, and you get a really beautiful view of the sun, and you can see those sunspots, and if you're seeing a partial solar eclipse, you can see the moon crunching into the sun and all of that. Now, the thing that's really, you only want to do that for a second though, because it can actually heat up the optics and melt the inside of your binoculars. So don't do this with a pair of binoculars that you really love. Do this with an old, crappy pair of binoculars that you don't mind totally destroying. But it's really neat to do it. And so you sort of aim it quickly at the sun, get this beautiful view of the of the sun. You can see the sunspots and all that sort of projected onto a piece of paper. And then before your binoculars heat up too much, move it away before you. I ruined a spotting scope that way. I kind of.
Oh.
Well, what I did, I had the spotting scope set up in the kitchen, and I pointed at the sun and got a view, and it was like, this is really great. And then I moved the spotting scope a little away so that it wasn't pointed at the sun, and then I left it in the kitchen. And then the next day, the sun came back through, and I wasn't home, and it just spent, 10 minutes baking the innards of the spotting scope, and totally fried it. And so at that point, it was just totally useless to use as a telescope.
Yeah, when I set my scope up for this, I always have to remind myself, don't take the lens cap off the spotting scope. Don't take the lens cap off the spotting scope.
Right, because your spotting scope is seeing the same view at the same time. Yeah. And so what I thought you can do, so you're going to capture some video of this, and so I thought it'd be really cool. When you're done, if you can gather flatten it and produce a really nice image, and then we can post that image of maybe
Yeah.
the 2 sunspot areas, and people can sort of see what they look like. What a flattened image, because this is live video, right? So this is shooting
Right.
whatever, 30 frames a second, 20 frames a second.
60 actually, but yeah.
Oh, is it 60 frames a second?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's gathering tons and tons and tons, and I'm not seeing a lot of distortion. I mean, I can see sort of along the limb.
Yeah.
I can see a little bit of distortion along the side of the sun, but it's not that bad.
No, it's not.
I think you got really nice seeing today, and I bet you're going to get a really beautiful view of the sun once everything's said and done. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And I've summoned a solar astronomer or 2, but I don't think any of them are kicking around. So yeah, Jason is saying that he has also destroyed a spotting scope.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I don't know if anyone. So Desislava is saying that agrees that it's 1422.
Okay, I'll go back to 1422.
Yeah, and there's that other one as well. So I don't know if anybody has an opinion about what the other one is, but there you go. Now this was totally. We didn't give you any notice on this. It was just Stuart was doing some solar observing, and he got the image and thought, hey, let's turn this into a live hangout. So I don't think we'll stick around for too long today, but I just want to remind everybody that we're going to be doing the live telescope hangout tonight at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to have multiple telescopes from multiple places in the world, we hope. And hopefully we'll do a really nice tour of a bunch of objects. We've got Jupiter is up right now. Mars is up in the sort of in the east. Venus is up, and I don't think we've even showcased any views of Venus yet. We've got a nice.
It's not that interesting.
It's not that interesting. No, I know. We've got a nice thin crescent moon, which is one of the nicest times to view the moon. And there's a lot of really nice deep sky objects, which are not hindered because we've got a nice crescent moon. So we really couldn't have a better night for observing. And hopefully we'll get as many telescopes as we can, sort of streaming all into the same hangout. So again, that's tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern, and we'll go for a couple of hours and see what we can see. We'll have probably a couple of professional astronomers in for color commentary, and so if you've never seen us do this, it's super fun, and I hope you'll join us.
All right.
All right, cool. So I think we'll wrap this up, Stuart. But can you, like I said, if you can flatten it and produce a video, that would be amazing. And then
and I'm also gonna plot my Barlow on, see if I can get a bigger view of it.
Sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
All right.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Stuart, and
My pleasure.
Maybe we'll see you tonight, I hope.
I hope so.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, thanks, everyone. That's it. That's all we got. Bye.
All right.